Hi everyone, I'm Inara Chagas and this is what's happening in Brazil. We start by updating you on the latest news from the country. A survey made by Quaest Institute in July shows that most of the Brazilian congressmen are against the 6-day work week. Data reveals that 70% of the Congress members are against the bill. Only 22% of the lawmakers support the proposal. To pressure the Congress and mobilize the people, the popular plebiscite launched a voting campaign to ask for the end of the 6-day work week. The initiative is organized by popular movements, unions, and civil society entities. The popular vote also demands more taxes for billionaires. Brazil has until the year of 2030 to reduce 90% infections caused by hepatitis, according to a goal established by the World Health Organization. The country, however, is very far to reach the objective. Brazil is among the 38 countries that together concentrates 80% of the infections and deaths by hepatitis B and C in the world. Despite being a country with lots of hydrical resources, Brazil needs to advance in taking care of its water, as the late report suggests. Pesticides and microplastics are the main substances that pollute Brazilian waters. The study also points out that without measures, contaminated water could put people's health at risk. In the state of Minas Gerais, southeastern Brazil, experts are denouncing a step backwards in the environmental licensing policy for large states. Last week, the governor of the state announced his intention to waive environmental licensing requirements for rural properties of up to 1,000 hectares dedicated to extensive livestock farming or the production of commodities such as soy, corn, and coffee.
The intention to waive environmental licensing requirements for rural properties of up to 1,000 hectares aimed at extensive livestock farming or the production of commodities such as soy, corn, and coffee was announced last week. Governor Romeu Zema presented the decision, representing a drastic expansion of the exemption, which currently applies to areas of up to 200 hectares. Minas state government argues that the change will bring opportunities for regularization and less bureaucracy for producers. But according to experts, this measure represents a serious attack on the environmental policy and could damage the region, as well as benefit only large landowners.
Porque o que significa isso em miúdos?
What does it mean after all? We are talking about 1,000 hectares, which is equivalent to an area like 1,000 Maracanã stadiums. In other words, a measure like this one means that these large agribusiness entrepreneurs in Minas Gerais no longer have to comply with environmental regulations. That is, I can plant, destroy, and monitor myself in a self-declaratory way, which means it is a very big risk, especially considering the Cerrado biome, whose destruction in Minas Gerais has already reached 60%.
The Center for Regional and Agrarian Studies and Research, also known as NEPRA, identified severe social impacts caused by agribusiness in the semi-arid region of Minas Gerais between 2002 and 2022. In 2 decades, 657 cases of pesticide poisoning, 189 conflicts over water, and 357 conflicts over land were recorded, affecting more than 77,000 families. The state government's proposal has also sparked a negative response among the Environmental Secretariat's own employees. Francisco de Assis, who is a career civil servant and leader of the Union of Environmental Civil Servants in the state of Minas Gerais, classifies the decision as another step towards the environmental dismantling promoted by the governor of Minas Gerais.
Então não é uma medida para os pequenos
It is not a measure aimed at small farmers, family farmers. No, it is for landowners. Think of a property larger than 1,000 hectares of useful pasture land or where one can grow crops everywhere. That's less than 0.1% of the population owning rural properties. So it is not intended for small farmers, family farming, let alone the preservation of the environment.
For the rural landless workers movement, the decision may intensify the production model based on the use of poison and concentration of land ownership.
Favorecer no agronegócio.
It will favor a production model based on poison, chemical fertilizers, particularly those used on soy and coffee plantations. And of course, intensifying this approach will lead to socio-environmental conflicts that will directly affect peasant families, indigenous territories, and quilombolas. It will fuel an environmental crisis and intensify it even more. It's a measure that's the opposite direction from that taken by the agrarian reform struggle, the environmental struggle, and the struggle for agroecology that we currently fight here in Minas Gerais, alongside traditional communities, agrarian reform areas, settlement areas, and landless encampments. This measure will cost us a lot.
A recently released work registers the sacred singing of the Auaguajá indigenous people in the Brazilian state of Maranhão. The official release happened in São Luís, Maranhão's capital city, with 12 Auaguajá singers, 2 printed works, and 99 songs available on streaming platforms.
The production of the sound collection documents the songs of the Auaguajá people, whose contact with the non-indigenous society is recent. They live in the Alto Turiaçu, Caru, and Auá indigenous lands in Maranhão state, but there are also groups in voluntary isolation in Araribóia, another indigenous area in Maranhão. The work represents a milestone in the valorization and preservation of indigenous cultural heritage.
They have an impressive vocal art, different from everything we have ever seen about indigenous singing. They use no instruments, only their voices. That's one of the Auá's cultural heritage, and these songs represent their way of life.
One outstanding aspect is that their songs aren't in the everyday language of the Auaguajá people, but in the language of the Karawara, celestial beings. Linguist Marina Magalhães has been studying the language of the Auaguajá since 2001.
Trata-se de uma linguagem.
In linguistics, it is referred to as ceremonial language. It's not just verbal art, poetry, or the way they express themselves artistically through songs. It has a very complex content that offers another perspective on the world, one that comes from the viewpoint of these celestial beings. Therefore, when the Auá sing, they don't just speak through the voice of the Karawara. They are talking with this other world, with another dimension.
With 12 singers, among them elder leaders, men, women, and youths, the Auaguajá people had the opportunity to explain both the spiritual importance of their singing and guarantees for the preservation of their culture.
Our songs are spiritual ones. For instance, when we have difficulties hunting, we sing. Singing also works for children. We sing to make them sleep, or when they have a fever. It works for curing our kids. Thus, our songs, the Auaguajá culture, must resist.
The collective work was a demand by the Auá people in order to preserve their culture. It outstands due to the sound and spiritual particularities that captivated the group involved in the production.
É uma coisa mais bonita que a gente...
The most beautiful thing we learn during this process is that these songs aren't human, aren't awa. They come from the spirits. The awa learn from the spirits in a tongue they call the tongue from the sky. Just the Kawara know it. For example, the Awa language has a word for tree, but the word for tree in the Karawara language is a different one.
The work included translating the lyrics from the language of the Karawara to the Awaguaja language, and only then from the Awaguaja to Portuguese. The printed works are intended especially for the schools of the Awaguaja indigenous communities. The songs are available on streaming platforms, and anyone who wants to access them can do so under the name Karawa Janaha. Janaha means songs, so they are the songs of the Karawara. The work is also a political act of resistance.
Karawara são espíritos de animais.
The Karawara are spirits of forest animals. They said here today, let's sing the Taboca song. So it is the spirit of the Taboca that sings, that lives in heaven. But here on earth, it is a Taboca. They sing the song on the butterfly in the same way. There's the song of the hummingbird, the token song, the Babasu palm song. There are several songs by these beings that are people in heaven. They are spirits with a human look, with a necklace, bracelets, and headdresses. On earth, however, they are beings of the forest, and it is as if they are singing nature itself. It isn't just a static verbal artwork. It is part of the political and territorial struggle they fight for their ancestral land. Singing is also part of their ecological fight. To sing is to resist, fight, and think about the territory politically.
Did you like the show? So hit the like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. We'll see you next week.